there. In this video I'm going to be talking to you about some of the most common faults that occur on tumble dryers. I'm actually going to be talking specifically about this White Knight tumble dryer. This video can be used for other makes. Faults are roughly all the same on vented tumble dryers. The only difference is the parts will be different and the location of the parts may be different. Now, two of the most basic problems with tumble dryers are lack of maintenance. This means that you haven't cleaned the machine out, kept filters clean, making sure ducting tubes aren't blocked and so on. And one of the other common faults are people overloading machines. Now, this machine, for example, is a 6 kilo machine. This doesn't mean that you can put 6 kilos of dry clothing in before you actually wash them. You really need to keep the drum halfway full, because the reason why it's called a tumble dryer in the first place is it tumbles the clothes. This means that the clothes have room to tumble. If you overload the machine, you're putting stress on the belt system, you're not allowing air to go through the tumble dryer correctly, and therefore it will actually be slower to dry a full drum complete rather than having two loads at half level, because the airflow is one of the most important things with vented tumble dryers and also on condenser dryers. We've all seen on the news about tumble dryers catching fire on certain manufacturers, but one of the real important issues with regards to this, if you do not keep tumble dryers clean, you will end up with a fluff build-up on filters and so on. This fluff that is on these can occasionally fall down the sides and it builds up inside a machine. Now, I've just done 2 or 3 videos on different tumble dryer repairs on these White Knight, and I'm just going to quickly show you what came out of this specific machine. Now, I did a video on how to replace the fan blade, but this actually came out of the inside of the machine, and this is highly combustible. Now, all that being said, I'll go through the list that I have of the most common faults on White Knight tumble dryers, and this, as I said, can be used for other makes of appliance. Firstly, one of the most common problems are due to overheating, the thermostats may go. Now, one of the top faults with this is you may set the program, for example, to 80 minutes to dry your clothing, but if you open the door after 30 minutes and stop the machine, the heating element will actually get slightly hotter because you've reduced, although you've shut the power off to the heating element, you've actually stopped the airflow going over the heating element. Therefore, it will increase slightly, and this may exceed the level of thermostats, the level of what the thermostats are capable of, and therefore, if it's a one-shot thermostat or a reset thermostat, which is on this one, it may trip, and therefore it will need resetting. On other makes like Hotpoint, Indeset, Zanussi, these may be what you call one-shot thermostats, where once they overheat, you have to replace that thermostat for that to actually be repaired. And it's a costly process. So if you set it to 80 minutes, let the machine do the whole cycle, or move the dial, if possible, to the last 10-15 minutes of the machine is where the cold air only is blowing through the machine, the heating element is disconnected, and this will allow the machine to cool down, and this will stop most of the thermostat problems which occur with machines. Now, one of the most common faults that occur on tumble dryers is the heating element may blow or go to earth. Now, a heating element normally has 2 sides. We have the neutral side here, and then 2 live feeds going to separate parts of the element. The combined, both sides will give you the high heat, but on low heat it may only choose to use one side of the heating element. That's one of the most common problems, and there's a video on the website to show you how to check them. Next, we have rear thermostat. Now, on White Knight they do have the luxury of having a reset button on the rear of the machine. Now remember, if you actually open the door while the machine is in use, this heat that's actually generated inside the element and around the casing may cause this to blow and need resetting. Another reason this can occur is, as I said, if you haven't got good airflow going through the machine, the temperatures may exceed the thermostatic level. Next, we have a cutout thermostat, another safety thermostat, inside the back. You can see this on another video. That needs testing and can also blow. And there is also what you call a ducting tube thermostat, which is in the front of the machine, normally on the ducting pipe. You can see this video on the website as well. Now I've taken care of most of the heating faults. There's a couple of others. If everything checks out okay, your heating element is good, your thermostats are good, there is a possibility that on mechanical timers we may have a fault. You may have a fault on the switch which selects between high and low heat, or you may have a relay on the circuit board and that may become faulty. As I said, all these videos are at the website. Next, let's talk about the tumble dryer not turning, which is another common fault. Now, if your tumble dryer is not turning, the most common fault here is the belt has snapped. This can be down to overloading the machine. The belt may slip on the motor shaft and the actual motor spinning against the belt instead of turning the belt will cause it to wear heavily at one point and eventually snap it. The machine could possibly be not turning. You may hear a humming noise, and this would be possibly the capacitor on the motor. You may have a motor fault itself. All these things can be checked and there's videos at the website. Again, there is another possibility. You may have a timer fault. You may have bad connections on the wiring. Or you may have a chaffed wire, which is where a wire has been cut through by accident because it wasn't fixed in the correct location. If your tumble dryer is not starting, so you've shut the door, you've turned it on, you press the start button, but the machine does not start, then you may have a problem with a few little bits and pieces. Firstly, on these white knight tumble dryers, we have a pin located at the top, which activates a switch inside. This tells the machine the door is closed and safe to start. You may have a broken pin, you may have a faulty switch inside, or you may have a problem on this machine has a start relay on the board. So those are a couple of the common problems. On other makes of machine, you do have what you call, very similar to washing machine door locks, which is a lock with a switch system all built in together. That may be faulty. And the last thing is, if your tumble dryer is not drying in the allocated period of time, well, this can be a few faults. One of the most common is blockages in the system, not letting the air getting through to dry the clothes efficiently. You may have a heating element where one side of the element has gone open circuit and therefore it's not getting the correct amount of heat. We may have a kinked tube. This means where you've pushed it against the wall and cut the restriction of the vent tube. These are all things that can be checked. Secondly, you may have blockage in the filter or blockages occurring through the ducting system. As I said, on this tumble dryer I did a previous video, and this dryer was not drying in the efficient amount of time, and that was because the fan blade was fully blocked, full of fluff, and I showed a video to how to replace that and clean it out. The last thing, if the machine is not finishing its cycle, you may possibly have either, on some of the modern machines, you have NTC sensors with automatic sensing when the clothes are dry, and if it hasn't dried in the allocated, it may be continuing to run, or it is a possibility you may have a timer fault or a circuit board fault. Thanks very much for watching this video. We have all the parts for these dryers at the website. Just remember, you will need your model number and in some cases a serial number. I hope this video helped you diagnose the problem with your machine. We have detailed videos on the individual repairs at the website and all the parts for your machine. Thank you very much for watching. Look forward to seeing you at the website. And do remember, you can always support the website by buying us a beer. Thanks very much indeed for watching.